Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Capacity Infra Projects Limited Q1 FY22 earnings conference call hosted by Motilal Oswal Financial Services Limited. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference, please signal an operator by pressing star, then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Alok Deora from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Capacity Infra Projects. Today we have with us from the management, Mr. Rohit Katyal, Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Alok Mehrotra, President Corporate Finance, and Mr. Nishit Pujari, Head of Accounts. We would start the call with opening remarks from the management, followed by a Q&A session. I now hand over the call to the management for the opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to our Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. I hope you and all your dear ones are safe and healthy. Along with me, I have Mr. Alok Mehrotra, Mr. Nishit Pujari, and SGA, our investor relations team. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to look at our results. The presentation and press release have been uploaded on the stock exchanges and our company's website. Before I take you all through the operational and financial performance, I would like to highlight a few points. The sentiments among real estate has remained optimistic as realtors manage to cope better with the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. With relatively less stringent lockdown restrictions and learnings from the last year, we have been able to better weather the situation. The availability of vaccines and aggressive vaccination drive has further helped the optimistic outlook for the sector. The real estate sector is treading cautiously and acknowledges that there is latent demand for both office and residential, a bit hindered by the prolonged pandemic. The future of the housing sector remains bullish in lieu of optimistic GDP, record high FDI and foreign reserves, reviving core sector indicators, credit availability to the branded developers, growing employment rate coupled with an attractive investment climate, resulting in a positive developer future sentiment score. On the public sector side, the industry is also doing its bit by strengthening health infrastructure to support the health infra of the country and by initiating vaccination drives to over 2 crore construction workers. In Q1 FY22, due to lockdown restriction and labor mismatch issues, our pace of recovery was hindered, resulting into lower than expected execution across all the sites. However, the situation gradually improved from June onwards, and thus the issues gradually reduced. As of today, we have close to 10,400 labor strength across all sites, which is an all-time high. Due to second wave, our revenue was impacted by almost 100 crores. Our execution on our last CIDCO project was severely impacted, leading to less than expected recovery. On the private sector side, the situation was grim, but gradually due to ease in restriction, we ramped up the execution quickly. In Q2 FY22, we move forward with optimism and keeping in mind the preparedness for the probable threat of third wave. The entire staff of the company has been vaccinated, and as such, we hope for a V-shaped recovery starting Q2 onwards. Furthermore, our focus for the revival and growth of the following aspects. Focus on increasing the pace of execution across all our projects, efficiently managing our working capital cycle, and stringent cost control measures. Now allow me to give you an overview of our operational performance during the quarter. The total order book, excluding MADA, stood at 8871 crores as on 30th June 21. Our order book from the public sector at the end of June 30th, 21 stood at 537 crores, which is 61% of the overall order book. while the private sector stood at 3,498, which is 39% of the total order book. Work is going on at good pace across all project sites of the company. In Q1 FY22, the company witnessed cash collections amounting to 270 crores, indicating reasonably strong collection efficiency. We expect momentum to improve substantially from Q2 onwards. Our continuous focus on client quality and cash flow monitoring has certainly strengthened our business model, especially in these challenging times. Our standalone financial performance for Q1 FY22 is as follows. The total income for Q1 FY22 stood at 282.4 crores as compared to 369 crores in Q4 FY21 as against 23.7 crores in the same period last year. EBITDA for Q1 FY22 stood at 41.8 crores as compared to EBITDA of 78.5 crores in Q4 FY21, down by 46.7% Q on Q. EBITDA margins in Q1 FY22 were around 14.8%. Margins have remained stable due to adoption of cost rationalization measures and reduction in finance costs. PAT for Q1 FY22 was at 4.3 crores. Cash PAT for the same period was at 25.5 crores. Our net debt remains stable at 130.5 crores as compared to 129.7 crores in Q4 FY21, with net debt to equity ratio at the end of June 2021 being at 0.41x. With this, I now leave the floor open for questions.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may enter star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If your questions have been answered and you wish to withdraw yourself from the queue, you may enter star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, you may enter star and 1. We have the first question from the line of Moin Danawala from Tata Opportunities Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you, and congratulations on a good recovery. My question is primarily around the large area of execution that you mentioned in the press release, which is your expectation around execution coming from the BDD halls. Can you put more light on how you expect this execution to be, and how much of your revenue over the next 3 years is expected to come from this project?
Yeah, good morning. The BDD project has been, the execution has already started a couple of weeks ago. And with you see this government push, we believe that the total revenues which will be recognized in the current financial year at the SPV level will be 300 crores, which will improve to 700 crores in FY22-23, followed by 1,000 crores the year thereafter. The total project on the LSTK basis is 10,000 crores plus 1,800 crores which comes from infra development. So we are expecting that the total work which would start over the next 7 months would be close to 3,600 crores, and therefore this projections which have been just given to you.
Sure, and I understand these numbers that you, which is 300 in FY22, 700 in FY23, and 1,000 in FY24. Those are for your portion of contract.
No. The total contract at the SPV level. So our portion is 35% share. These are very comfortable numbers which we have informed to you. The government has advised completion of the rehab portion, which is of 5,000 crores over the next 3.5 years. Our commitment is to complete each building from the date of handover within 36 months within the date of handover. So if today is a zero date, within 3 years, that building needs to be handed over, lock and key. So from that perspective, we believe that the rehab portion, in all probability, should be completed in under 4.5 years. Therefore, there is clear visibility on the rehab side of approximately 5,000 crores of revenue happening over the next 4 years. Similarly, the sale portion of the business will also start 4 months from now. The first location has already been handed over. However, those revenues have not been incorporated at the moment in time. The billing breakup has been approved by the client, and therefore the revenue visibility is absolutely clear as far as BDD is concerned. Answering your question, this is at consolidated level, at the SPV level only. Our share will be 35% of the profits.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Shantanu Mantri from Think Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. So I had 2 questions. Firstly, now with this, slightly weaker first quarter due to the lockdown restrictions, just wanted a sense that, as you are indicating that going ahead next 9 months, we should really bounce back in terms of execution. So just wanted your sense that, say for FY22, you think in the 9 months we'll be able to, come back to that 2,000 crore revenue levels for full year? Is that possible?
So the target when we started was 2,000 crores. No one was aware that the impact of second wave would happen and to this extent.
Right.
So therefore, what is lost is lost. However, the company has drawn down a revised execution schedule.
Right.
We expect a V-shaped recovery in Q2, and we expect a very strong Q3 and Q4. Now, we are not accounting for the impact which may happen due to the third wave, fourth wave, or whatever we may call that.
Sure.
However, since the entire staff has been vaccinated, therefore the risk of the staff going down due to COVID, which was severely the case in the second wave. Nearly 250 members of our staff were infected and down. Luckily, they all are healthy now. But we do not know what exactly the impact would happen, how the workforce would react. The workforce reacted a little bit more maturely in the second wave as opposed to the first wave. And from that experience, we believe that they will be much better prepared or more mature when the third wave, as and when it happens, and if at all it happens. Hopefully it does not happen. So from that perspective, our execution for the remaining 9 quarters, we have drawn it down at a minimum level of 1,500 crores. We will put all efforts to improve upon that, and we will keep all our investors appraised from time to time on it. 1,500 crores excluding Q1.
Got it. For the next 9 months. And the margins would be in the range of 15%, right?
The EBITDA margins will be 17.5%, which were there. In the Q1, the only impact has been the indirect cost. If you see, our material costs are approximately 43-44%. And therefore, the other costs, which are basically fixed costs, could not be distributed over the additional 100 crores of revenue which we would have achieved, like we did in Q4 of last fiscal. Otherwise, the EBITDA levels would have been at the same levels or a little bit better, because the finance costs have gone down. The PAT would have been slightly better, and we expect that same levels to continue going forward.
Sure. Okay. So my second question is a little broader. What really, worries me is that, say, if we take FY19, we've done a turnover of 1,800 crores. But still, if we look at, and our PAT was around 97 crores. But if we look at our cash flows, probably FY19 was one of our best years. And if I look at free cash to equity, we've done a negative free cash of 175 crores. And even if I look at, our last 6 years, 7 years, we've been not able to generate free cash for equity. And one of the main reasons is, working capital. And also we've been spending heavily on capital expenditure. So what my question is that, going ahead as we are, looking to better our working capital, say FY23, once we cross that 2,000 odd crore revenue mark. So according to you, in your estimation, what would be the free cash generation that we can generate, once we achieve that 2,000 odd crore revenue mark? Because this free cash generation, once the company proves, I feel will be the true re-rating factor going ahead. Thank you.
You have to first say that the cash flow from operations have been positive since the inception. What you see is that there has been a core asset investment over the last 8 years of close to 700 crores on the core gross block.
Right.
The net block is visible to you at 424 crores, but the gross block is 700 crores. Because what capacity has achieved in last 7 years, companies which you compare us with have achieved in last 30 years. So therefore, it was imperative for the company that if it had to grow, it had to do that capex. Like last quarter also, I mentioned that except for CIDCO capex, close to 75 crores, and Piramal Central Tower, which is about 14 crores, all other capex have been incurred for the existing order book of the company. And therefore, the capex levels will fall. Capex levels fall turn the company cash flow positive. It's not a question of 2,000 crore revenue. That can happen at a 600 crore revenue also. But of the 2,000 crore revenue, your cash pet, assuming at 9%, will be reflected in your cash flow as 180 crore. And if your capex out of that or repayment is close to 90 crore, you will be still positive of about 90 to 100 crore. Now this could improve depending on various factors like finance cost. At the moment we are going through a low interest regime, and hopefully if that continues over the next 2 years, we are sure to see this position. So therefore, the matter of re-rating which you just mentioned, any company which has to reach a level of 12,000 crores of order book or 13,000 crores of order book, executing mega projects in a period of 8 or 9 years of its inception, has to undergo this capex cycle, and this was absolutely planned and everyone is aware of this. Had we not done this capex, the question of we executing such an order book wouldn't have arisen, and therefore you wouldn't be asking me this question. So this is my submission to you.
Sure. So that's helpful. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. Before we move to the next question, we would like to remind participants to ask a question. You may enter star and 1. We have the next question from the line of Deepak Poddar from Sapphire Capital. Please go ahead. Mr. Poddar, please go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. So just wanted to understand, you just mentioned like EBITDA margin 17.5%. So you're talking about 9 months or full year?
I'm talking about the 9 months. So you will have to basically take an averaging. Our target, revised target for the 9 months is 1,500 crores. And if you add 283 to that, so your EBITDA still would come to 16.75 to 17%.
Correct. And this includes other income?
Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, yeah, that's the clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Sita Raman from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you, sir. And my first question is, can you give a sense of the big pipeline that we are seeing ahead? Possibly I might have missed it. I joined 5 minutes late.
Sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Can you give a sense of the big pipeline that is ahead?
Yeah. The bid pipeline continues to be very strong, and now the private sector also has also started participating. We foresee serious good repeat orders from our existing clients. Having said that, the order book has already got strengthened by the start of BBT project, and it is extremely important for the company to focus on the execution and ensure that we are at full blast on the execution side of all the projects. Having said that, with BDT starting, the operational order book has now gone to nearly 13,000 crores, and therefore this gives us a serious opportunity to pick and choose. And we do believe that the government side, the company will add some orders in quarter 3 and quarter 4. On the private sector side, also the company sees an opportunity. Overall, as I mentioned last time during the investor conference call, the bid pipeline for capacity infra stands at 46,000 crores, and that continues to be in that range itself. Now, as the order book is very strong, the pick and choose comfort which the company derives will continue, and therefore the 2,000 plus order book intake stands at the moment in time, of which about 450 crores has already been achieved.
Okay. On the second question, can you give an idea about the working capital situation currently, the receivables, unbilled revenue, inventory, work in progress, unbilled portion, all those things, please?
So the total debtors, other than uncertified debtors, stand at 342.14 crores. This is down from 412.9 crores, which stood at the end of Q1 2021, where the revenue was hardly anything because it was a washout quarter then. So if you see that in spite of growth in revenue, the debtor levels have fallen at a net level to 342.14 crores as against 412.9 a year back and 366.2 crores in Q4. The total contract assets are at the same level as Q4 2021 at 540 crores or thereabouts. This will improve substantially and get into sales starting Q3 and Q4. So you should see a reduction of approximately 100 crores in that. The inventory level remains stable at 100 crores over the last 2 years, so there is no change in that. Most importantly, the creditor levels at increased revenues have fallen to 300 crores from 420 crores in FY 19-20. I'm talking about the unsecured creditors. The total creditors in FY 19-20 was 623 crores, which have fallen now to 449 crores. So if you look at the total thing, that once the contract asset reduction of 100 crores happens, you should be with working capital levels, which at net levels were about 76 days, excluding retention money. So at the moment in time, 117. It is standing at 117 days. So as I told you, the correction of 100 crores in working capital will lead you to that pre-COVID level. And obviously by March end, we had projected in the last investor conference that this should happen by Q4 because of the current financial year. However, now this will take one more quarter and we will be at pre-IL&FS level by Q1 of next financial year.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Mohit from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. And congratulations on decent set of numbers in a very challenging environment. So my question is on the CIDCO project and Mahada project. Going forward, of course, I want to know what was the run rate for the last quarter for CIDCO especially, and how do you see the run rate going forward for CIDCO and from Mahada project, if you can throw some light, and how the revenues. I think JV, this is a JV, so this will contribute only to the profit associate. Is that understanding right?
So if I've understood your question correctly, you would like to know the run rate on CIDCO and Mahada project. Am I right?
Yeah, CIDCO right now. For Mahada, I don't think it started right as of now. So Mahada going forward, when it's possible.
The CIDCO project in Q1, the total sales gross were 45.99 crores. As we said that there was serious reduction in labor availability across the project sites. Adjusting for the decrease in EBIT of 8.14 crores, the net sales stood at 37.85 crores. In Q2, we believe that the total sales will be at approximately 85 to 100 crores. However, we can provide you a detail. Our team will mail that details to you if you can provide your email ID to them. Second point is that from Q3, CIDCO project will be back to the 40 crore per month levels, and from Q4 it will be at 70 crore levels. That estimate does not change. It has only got delayed by 1 quarter. MHADA project has already started, and therefore the total sales from MHADA at the SPV level, which is an integrated joint venture with Tata Projects Limited, for the current financial year will be at 300 crores. For FY 22-23 will be at 700 crores, and the year thereafter will be at 1,000 crores, of which 35% will belong to Capacity Infra Projects Limited.
That's one clarity, sir. There is no hurdle as far as MHADA work is concerned anymore now. Am I right, or do you still there's some part you can work on some part and there's some issue with some part?
So you're talking about the hurdles. So hurdles
MHADA.
are the reason why the project got delayed.
Right.
The government resolution in December increased the height of the buildings from 22 stories to 40 stories. The IOD of CC of which has been received. For the rehab towers, the work for 2 rehab towers have already started. We should be working on 6 towers within 60 days, and we should be working on 10 towers within 90 days. And therefore, we do not foresee any hurdle as far as permissions from the client or execution is concerned. Now, if there is another third wave of COVID or allied issues, that cannot be projected at this moment in time. However, we are confident that the third wave will not impact the construction industry like it has impacted in wave 2, and therefore we are quite optimistic of these revenue figures.
So will the EBITDA margin of the MHADA project be similar to our standalone numbers, or do you think it will be different?
It will be slightly better because it's a design build project, complete lump sum turnkey.
Understood, sir. Thank you and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of VP Rajesh from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead. Mr. Rajesh, please go ahead with your question. Your line is unmuted.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go on.
Hi, my first...
Mr. Rajesh, I'm sorry to interrupt. The audio from your line is slightly low. Could you switch to your handset?
Yeah, I am on the handset now. Is it better?
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello? Yeah. Okay. So on the debt side, given the change in the guidance, revenue guidance this year, does that also changes from what you had indicated in the last con call?
That does not change, but as I have indicated last time also, there could be an increase of 30-40 crores or reduction of 10 crores. But on the whole year level, that will remain largely unchanged. You will maybe see some reduction on that side. Going forward, again, our projections of going gross debt free in FY23 gets only extended by 1 quarter at this moment in time.
Right. Great. And my second question is on the revenue guidance. Since we are reducing the guidance by 220 crores of revenue, and from the slide in your deck, it seems like we lost only 89 crore of revenues in this quarter, which you have sort of circled as a lockdown impact. So then there is some delay in around 120 crores of revenue. So is that sort of the right way to look at it, or if I'm missing something?
You see that as the momentum continued from Q4 of last financial year, we would have been at 450 crore plus. It is only an estimate that number of people reduction and therefore the loss in revenue of 100 crores. That's an indicative figure. But if you take a normal situation, when the momentum had peaked to 380 crores in Q4 of last financial year, it is only obvious that we would have done better Q on Q had the second wave not impacted. Okay, so from that level, we would have done 450, 460 very easy in quarter one of the current financial year, against which we have done 280 crores. Therefore, the impact can be concluded at 140, 130, 100. That is only an estimate which has been put. On the whole year, we are saying that if you do not take the impact, if you leave Q1, then targeting a revenue of 1,500 crores, it is important to note that we are already at 10,500 workmen across all the project sites, and this momentum continues, which means that you will see a V-shaped recovery in revenue in Q2 to some extent, and to a very large extent in Q3 and Q4. And therefore, the guideline of 1,500 crore at least revenue from the remainder 9 months. Now, whether that translates into 200 crore reduction over the full year, that's only a indicative figure. If the company picks up pace at MHADA also, that could add and could reach that magical figure. Because when we gave the projections last time, MHADA was not included in it. Okay? So at the moment also, the revenue projections which are being given excludes MHADA. Any positive over there, because the work has already started, will help the company achieve the original target.
Got it. But MHADA revenues will be coming not on the top line, right? It will be one line at the bottom on the profitability. Is that my understanding correct?
On the profitability for sure, but since it's a joint, it's a company, it's a LLP and not AOP, the auditors are checking up, and we hope that they will find some way out where our partners, Tata Projects, will recognize 65% and we will recognize 35%. So we are on that job. Obviously, it would be in the interest of capacity that it is able to recognize the 35% revenue.
Got it. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question of Parvez Akhtar Qazi from Edelweiss Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, sir, and thanks for taking my question. So 2 questions from my side. First, on the MHADA order, I mean, you obviously said that work on rehab towers has started. You'll start work on 6 towers in 60 days, 10 towers in 90 days. There's some infrastructure work also. So, I mean, just wanted to get some sense if it would be possible to break this overall, whatever, 12,000 crore project, give some idea about work on how much quantum of project can start and how much timeline.
Hi. So you can just note it down. The project value is 11,744 crores, excluding escalation and GST. Okay? So out 11,744 crores, 15% is the provisional sum for infra works. Infra works is defined in this project as any work done outside the periphery of the building. So any roads, electricals, water supply, shifting, transit, all that is housed in the 1,800 crores. So that leaves the LSTK works at 10,000 crores. Of this, 5,300 crores is the rehab portion, and 4,700 crores is the sale building component, which includes 1 commercial tower. Of this 5,300 crores of rehab building, we have to construct now, as per the new designs and drawings which have been approved, 33 towers of 40 stories each, without any basement, and the podium parking, which will house 250 tenements in each tower. As I have already told you, that we have started work already on 2 rehab buildings of 40 stories. The total work at the end of 60 days will be, we would have started work on 6 towers, and at the end of 90 days, we would have started work on 10 towers. 10 towers would mean 2,500 tenements. One building, approximately, otherwise you'll catch my word, approximately, I repeat, from sale portion would be up close to 150 crores. So 10 buildings would mean that you would have started work on 1,500 crores of rehab bid towers. Infra work cannot be projected. Maybe we would work on 50 crores, 100 crores or whatever it is. So that is not being included in the projections which we are giving to you. The sales side, the IOD-CC should come within a week's time. However, that entails, because these are 80-story towers, that entails wind tunnel test, which would take 3 months. So 4 months from zero date, that is from next week, 4 months, you would start work on the sale component, which is the plot is already vacant, and it can be started as soon as the permissions for wind tunnel tests are received. Point number 3 is that 5 months from now, you would start the commercial tower of 60-story approximately on the PWD land, Savli plot to be specific, and that means that in the current financial year, including the sale component of 2 towers and the commercial building of 60-story, you would have started work on another 2,500 crores of buildings. Therefore, 1,500 plus 2,500 is close to 4,000 crores. Since the billing breakup, so that's what can be foreseen as I speak to you today. Out of this 4,000 crore work which will start, obviously the billing breakup, since it has been approved now for all the 3 contractors, Tata Capacity JV, L&T and Shapoorji, we foresee that billing of 300 crores is easily doable in the current financial year, 700 crores next year on conservative side, and at least 1,000 crores thereafter. So this is how the project is broken up, and therefore it can be explained very well now.
Great, sir. Thank you. And the second question is, what is the kind of capex that you did in Q1, and what are your plans for the full year?
Capex in Q1 was 10 crores for CIDCO. The aluminium formwork has been received. And for the full year, as I told you, CIDCO projection continues to be at 75 crores. There may be some spillover for the next year, or maybe it could go to 80 crores. But that continues. There is no change in that.
Perfect. Thanks and all the best for future.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi Rohit, congratulations on a decent performance in the challenging quarter.
Mr. Kandpal, please come close to your instrument. The audio is not clear.
Is it better now? Hello?
Could you use
Parikshit, go on.
Yeah. So I was saying that first question is, sir, we have seen...
again, there's a lot of disturbance. Can you pick up your handset, please?
Okay, 1 second. Hello, is it better now?
Perfect.
Also, we have seen that the tier 1 developers have been gaining market share over the last 1 year, and COVID has been a blessing in disguise for them, while the tier 2 developers have been suffering. And consciously, we have also moved our order book into tier 1. So, but then again, there is a shortage of high quality contractors who can do complex jobs like high-rise, super high-rise. So for you as a company, are you seeing that you are now having a better bargaining power in the market in terms of getting better pricing, better payment terms from the private developers?
So Parikshit, you know that most of the clients we work with, they don't go for an L1 concept. So it's more of a comfort which a particular client of ours derives from ours or from an L&T or from a Shapoorji or other organization. So people like Godrej, we see that because of the repeat orders which we have got over the years, but not to forget Oberoi, for whom we are executing nearly 1,700 crores or 1,600 crores of orders, and the entire order book is fully operational at the moment in time. And there are future, launches where we will have an opportunity. So we do believe that a big portion of our orders come from accounts, if I may say, which are more permanent in nature. There are clients who obviously, because of increase in steel and cement especially, are a bit concerned about the pricing. However, capacity with the current order book, and especially after MADA having gone operational, we are in no hurry to book an order at any price which lowers our EBITDA on the cost to complete sheet. So therefore, while the big pipeline looks strong, our existing clients giving us repeat orders, the company will refrain from taking any new client which is lower than, has a lower profile financially than what we are currently working for. At the same time, bargaining power, yes. However, when you have a relationship with a client, you don't bargain, you sit across the table and close the pricing. So we will not call it bargain. We will call it comfort level which we share with our particular clients. Number one. Number two, on the government side, we see in the orders of 400 crores and above, especially in the geographies where we are, the dirty competition which we saw maybe 2 years back in the NBCC projects, the central PWD projects, that is not happening at the moment in time. So I really hope that continues because there are contractors who have been severely impacted by this prolonged pandemic, and I do not know how many of them would be able to come back. So it gives the more established and financially sound players a better playing field than in the known past history. So these are the two positives which I believe. But bargaining power, that's not the right word to put in. We wouldn't like the clients to believe that we are bargaining. We would like to believe that the client should take us as a partner on a long-term basis on the private sector side.
Okay. The second question was that earlier in June we had sold some stake in the company. So just wanted to understand from your thought process doing what was the necessity doing that and the way forward.
Parikshit, you are aware that Rahul and I were professionals like you are today. We continue to be professionals, but we're also shareholders in Capacity Infra. Obviously, as professionals, we took loans from family and friends to start the company. And it was nearly 8 years since the loans were taken. It was important that we repay them. So the loans have been repaid in totality by the promoters, whatever little they have had. However, we also utilized a substantial part of that to put the money at SBI PLR in the company and repay expensive bank debt. And that impact you see in Q1 fall in the interest cost by 4 crores.
So what was the quantum of money which is coming through this ICD?
Through ICD?
Yeah.
Close to 50 crores.
Okay, great to hear that. So this will eventually get repaid when you're targeting that by FY23 end, so there will be net cash. So by that time you intend to repay this debt. Company intends to repay the debt to the promoters.
We haven't planned that repayment at the moment in time, but we will have more clarity because we have come out of a challenging Q1. We do not anticipate any further hindrances, but then promoters or like the way you will put it, the shareholders of the company, and from our perspective, the company's interest is paramount. Let the peak or revenue peak, and then we will plan on how the money has to be taken out.
So in the current order book, so when do you see the peak revenues on a quarterly basis start hitting, and what could be the quantum? So you did mention about 1,500 crores for the 9 months, but say over the next 4, 5, 6 quarters in the existing order book, which quarter will start hitting peak revenue?
So Q2 projections are at 403 crores after the month of July being passed. Q3 is 563 crores, and Q4 will be 650 crores. So you will start peaking at 650 crores from Q4 onwards, and that momentum should continue in the next financial year, excluding MADA.
Okay, great. So when we see this ramp up happening, a very V-shaped kind of a ramp up happening, so on the liquidity side, on the bank guarantee, non-fund based limits, fund limits, so how are we shoring up our balance sheet to cater to this kind of a growth over the next few years? And are we comfortable on liquidity now? So because you've also taken up a resolution to raise 300 crores, so is it baked in these assumptions, or so you can just give some sense on that?
Firstly, we know that all companies, many companies have raised equity, they have raised debt. for capacity, if you see, excluding the ICD which the promoters have put, the bank debt is on the fund-based side is down by nearly 90 crores. All right. Now, we do not know what's there in fold for all of us on this pandemic front. So enabling resolution has been taken. If the company warrants, so be it. We will take appropriate call at the appropriate time. Number one. Number two, on the liquidity front, we have bank guarantees of 200 crores nearly, which are available to the company for growth and the order book to be done in the current financial year. For some retention monies to be taken back, and therefore we do not see that as a challenge in the current financial year. For next financial year, obviously we will be putting up our proposals, and whatever bank guarantee limits are required, I am sure our banks led by SBI Consortium are very comfortable and they would be extending the guarantee limits to us.
Okay. But for ramping up your execution to 650 odd crores by this year, and you won't be requiring equity money, that fundraise. So extra fundraise also that can be achieved.
As I told you, there is a lot of caution to the wind, which I must say that over the last 1.5 years we all have gone through. So we do not want to be caught unawares, and therefore an enabling resolution has been taken. Answering your question, that if we are speaking at 650 crores, with a majority chunk coming from CIDCO, JJ Hospital and Bombay Municipal Corporation, we do not see the debt levels growing from the current level. However, as I told in the last conference call also, 25-30 crores in a quarter increase or decrease should not be read into too much.
Okay. Just the last question around this. You said 100 crores of recovery you are expecting from the contract assets by this year and third or fourth quarter. So what has been the delay attributable to, and how long has been this delay? Because this number has not really moved. It has been quite sticky. So if you just give some sense behind delays and how confident you are, like why it should get recovered in third, fourth quarter. So what gives you that confidence?
See, this includes uncertified bills. The uncertified bill is 92 crores. In quarter one last year it was 156 crores. FY 2021 it was 81 crores. So we are nearly to that level. Okay. The only increase is in WIP of government projects by 100 crores, and we believe that this WIP will get converted into sales starting quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and therefore your WIP will start, WIP, which is forms a part of contract assets, will reduce by 100 crores to approximately 325 crores. When this reduces, your working capital gets unlocked, number one, and also you see reduction in the net working capital days by maybe 20-25 days, because it is impacting both the assets and the liability sides.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side and all the best.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Anurag Jain from Green Lantern Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just wanted you to touch upon the order inflow bit. So while the pipeline is very strong, inflows have been lackluster and maybe understandably so in the last 2 quarters. So has the bidding out activity started to pick pace now? How do we see, over 9 months, what are we targeting in terms of inflows? You can touch upon that.
So firstly, the bid pipeline is very strong, as I've already said. In the first quarter, nearly 450 crores of inflows have already happened. In this 450 crores, orders worth 250 crores are without the value of steel and concrete. So you can imagine what is the value of the orders had steel and concrete been added to it. For the full year, we continue to look at order inflows in excess of 2,000 crores. Even though the order book, operational order book is already at 13,000 crores, we don't think that anything more than 2,000 crores at this moment in time would be right for the company. Obviously, we do have the execution capabilities. That is some very good opportunity comes by, we will be there to look at it positively. But ending the current financial year with an order backlog of close to 13,000 crores will be a historic high.
Got that. And in terms of profitability for the new orders booked, they would be in line with the company average, right?
Absolutely. Therefore, you don't see any rush from capacity to book any new orders. We don't need to. Anything which acts negatively on the cumulative EBITDA or cash margins of the project will not be done.
Got that. Thank you so much, and all the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Samarth Agrawal from Inar Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Hello, this is Samarth Agrawal. Sir, I would like to, can you put some light on your fintech platform that you launched, and how is it working, and what are the projections that you see through that?
The fintech platform, the first phase is already up and live. We have close to 100 general contractors registered. We have more than 6,000 labor contractors registered, and it is basically a workforce platform known as eForce, which is being done by our associate company where Capacity holds 40% stake, known as Captech. We are looking to add a fintech module to that as the second phase, which should be done over the next 3 to 4 months. The fintech module would enable trade on the platform where the labor contractor will be assured of immediate and secure payment, which would add serious value in our view to the platform, OTS. And therefore, we see very explosive expansion to the base, to the general contractor and the labor contractor base over the next 2 quarters starting October onwards. Because at the moment, people are getting it, the smaller contractors are getting the labor or the labor contractors, which it was not available. The platform is already being used as far as in Orissa, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh. So we do believe over the next 6 months, a lot of traction will take place, and once the fintech module is attached, there will be serious value which this platform will add to all its stakeholders, and obviously Capacity will be a beneficiary of that.
Thanks a lot. I'm a user of your fintech platform and a big fan of it. So thanks a lot for your help, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Siddharth Kabra from United Boxes. Please go ahead. Mr. Kabra, please go ahead with your question. If you have muted the line from your end, please unmute and speak. So we move to the next question from the line of Dharmendra from Bora Family Office. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, my question has been answered. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Vivek, an investor. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. So just one thing I want to understand is, you said that labor, there was a shortage in Q1, but when I look at the total employee cost, right, is more or less same. So is the labor cost included in the employee cost or is it separate?
No, labor is done on contractor basis. So it generally is 14-15% of the sale value, and that remains the same. What you see is the staff. Obviously, we cannot send the staff home, and therefore, as a percentage to sales, that has gone up because the staff continues to be with the company. So employee cost is only the staff cost and not the contractor.
The second question is that you just mentioned about the eForce FinTech platform. Do we have any sort of a rough, sense on the revenue from that over the next 2 years or so?
Sorry, I'm not handling that company directly. I will tell from our end, Mr. Amit Porwal, if you can share your number, he will have a discussion, and whatever information you require, he will share it with you. We will be better prepared from next quarter to answer such questions. I was not prepared actually.
No problem. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We have the next question from the line of Sita Raman from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Can you give an idea of the total FD position at the end of June 21, the fund-based limit, the non-fund-based limit?
1 minute, please. The total limits assets are 1,130 crores, out of which the non-fund-based limits are 940 crores. Against the 940 crores, our utilization stands at 500 crores. The total CC fund-based is 190 crores, out of which the outstanding stands at 120 crores. So unutilized limits are about 450 crores. However, out of which 70 crores, 450, 3.79 crores.
Okay, 450, okay. Hello, yes sir, continue sir please.
Yeah, that's the question you asked, am I right?
Yeah, the unutilized part is 450 crores, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir. That's the question that I asked.
Mr. Raman, does it answer your question?
Yeah, that's
sure. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I would now like to hand the floor back to the management for closing comments. Please go ahead.
Thank you everyone for joining on the call. We hope we have been able to answer your queries. For any further information, we request you to get in touch with SGA, our investor relations advisors. Thank you, stay safe, and look forward to catching up in the next quarter. Bye-bye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Motilal Oswal Financial Services, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and we now disconnect your lines. Thank you.